China just pulled the plug on every single investment in the United States. No warning, no negotiations, $0 flowing in. Wall Street is crashing. Jobs are vanishing. Prices are exploding. The global economy is on the edge of collapse, and this is only the beginning. Are we watching the end of America's financial power? Watch till the end. You need to see this. In what experts are calling the most seismic shift in global finance in years.
China has abruptly frozen all investments into the United States. The move, announced with zero warning, has sent shockwaves through Wall Street and the global market alike. Under a directive issued by China's State Administration of Foreign Exchange, every single investment deal involving American companies has been halted, effective immediately. Beijing cites escalating political risks and the urgent need to safeguard national assets as reasons for the freeze, but the implications of this decision could be much more far-reaching than anyone imagined. Let's begin by taking a hard look at the numbers. Since 2018, Chinese investments into the US have already plunged by an eye-popping 95%. From their peak of $46 billion annually just a few years ago, these investments now barely scrape $2.3 billion, marking the lowest level in nearly 2 decades. And now, even that small lifeline has been cut off. Why does this matter? Because for years, the unique financial relationship between the United States and China has been central to the growth of entire industries. Industries like tech, commercial real estate, and even agriculture. Chinese capital didn't just build skyscrapers or power Silicon Valley startups. It also funded innovation, jobs, and economic expansion at the consumer level. And now, investors, businesses, and workers alike are staring down the barrel of an unprecedented crisis. Within 48 hours of China's announcement, US stocks began an alarming freefall. The Dow Jones plunged over 1,700 points, marking one of its steepest drops in years. Iconic American companies like Apple, Tesla, and Qualcomm are grappling with immediate fallout as supply chains that stretch across the Pacific crumble under the weight of new uncertainty. All this comes in the wake of growing economic tensions between the two superpowers. The catalyst? A tit-for-tat series of aggressive tariff policies initiated under the Trump administration. First, Washington slapped Chinese goods with a barrage of tariffs worth hundreds of billions of dollars. Then Beijing retaliated, announcing its own set of duties, 34% on key US exports, including agricultural products like soybeans, corn, and processed foods. This counterattack is more than just a financial headache for American farmers, who are already operating on razor-thin margins in a volatile economy. Experts say these new tariffs could slash US GDP by 0.5 percentage point. And it doesn't stop there. Over 500,000 jobs in export-dependent industries are at risk, from small-town farming communities to manufacturers shipping goods overseas. For consumers, this trade war isn't an abstract political strategy. It's a direct hit to their wallets. Prices for basic goods, especially food and technology products, are expected to skyrocket. Soy milk, electronics, even appliances, all could cost significantly more in the coming weeks. Inflation, which was already creeping upward, could spiral out of control as companies pass the cost of tariffs onto their customers. But here's where things get even more dangerous. This isn't just a US-China problem anymore. The ripple effects are exposing cracks across the global economy. Europe, for one, is now caught in a dilemma. Countries like Germany, France, and the UK, long-standing trade partners with America, are quietly redrawing their economic alliances. China, sensing an opportunity in the chaos, has ramped up its exports to Europe, offering competitive prices thanks to lower tariffs. In 2023 alone, Chinese shipments of electronics and steel to the EU skyrocketed, further isolating the US on the global stage. And then there's Japan. Tokyo has just unleashed a financial bombshell that could shake Washington to its core. In retaliation for tariffs targeting Japanese electric vehicles, Japan has begun quietly selling off massive quantities of US Treasury bonds, one of the keystones of American fiscal stability. For decades, Japan has been one of the United States' largest creditors, helping finance the federal deficit and stabilize the dollar. But with billions of dollars in Treasury holdings now being liquidated, analysts warn of a domino effect, a weakening dollar, rising inflation, and higher borrowing costs for American businesses. What we're witnessing is nothing short of an unraveling of the US's economic dominance. China, Japan, and other nations are accelerating efforts to reduce their dependence on the dollar, exploring new regional trade agreements and currencies. Beijing has already made significant strides in establishing the yuan as a rival to the greenback in the international market. So what does this mean for everyday Americans? Behind the statistics and geopolitical maneuvers, the real cost of this economic clash is painfully human. Picture this. A soybean farmer in Iowa watches as foreign buyers vanish overnight. A factory worker in Michigan is laid off as manufacturing slows to a crawl. A single mom in California struggles to cover her grocery bills as food prices climb faster than her paycheck. Meanwhile, retirement accounts tied to the stock market are shrinking daily, leaving millions of working Americans in fear of losing their financial security. Foreclosures are starting to rise as homeowners can't keep up with mounting mortgage rates. Renters face similar hardships as skyrocketing rental costs lock entire generations out of the housing market. And yet, amidst all this chaos, the political leadership in Washington seems gridlocked. The escalating trade war, once heralded by Donald Trump as a surefire strategy to protect American jobs, has backfired spectacularly. The Biden administration inherited these policies but is struggling to untangle the mess. Calls for diplomatic negotiations with Beijing are growing louder, but finding common ground between two nations locked in an economic Cold War may prove impossible. What options does the United States have moving forward? Economists are sharply divided. Some argue for a complete recalibration of trade policy, urging Washington to halt tariffs and rebuild trust with China. Others advocate doubling down on domestic production, channeling government funding into struggling industries to make the United States less reliant on foreign trade. The stakes couldn't be higher. This isn't just an economic spat, it's a battle for the future of global growth and stability. If the United States caves under the pressure or fails to adapt, the consequences could ripple across generations. So, as we end this tumultuous week, one thing is clear: the global economy is fundamentally shifting. Trade wars, once dismissed as temporary disruptions, are now shaping the very fabric of international relations. And for Americans who once believed this conflict was happening far away, the shockwaves are arriving at their front doors in lost jobs, higher prices, and looming uncertainty. This is one of the most critical junctures in modern economic history. Will the United States find a way to navigate this crisis, or are we witnessing the twilight of an era, the fall of America as the world's financial hegemon? Stay tuned, because the story is far from over.